Dr. Renee. I've been using THINX period panties for about 4, almost 5 years now. I absolutely love that. First and foremost, because I'm not wasting money and gas going to the store to get pads, and I wasn't really a tampon user. I used them very rarely, so that's my biggest thing. Secondly, the way that pads feel, like you're always reminded it's there because you can feel it. I felt like I had a diaper on. I felt like everyone knew I was on my cycle because they bulged, because I'm a heavy bleeder. That's another good thing that you need to know. The third thing is they're great for the environment. And of course, along with saving money, I'm not ruining any clothes. I'm not ruining underwear. I'm not really ruining my clothes because of the leakage, nothing. It's free bleed and it's so amazing. No one would know I'm on my cycle unless I tell them. There's no odor, there's no leakage, and they're wonderful. And if you would like to try them out, $10 off using my link, and there is a money back guarantee if it doesn't work out for you. You can do that as well. But I promise if you try it, you'll fall in love with it. And there's a lot of other options out there. As a matter of fact, THINX even has other options that you could check out. Check out the website, shethinks.com/Renee, RENEE. Bye.
Good morning. Good morning. I hope everyone is having a fabulous Friday. But this is the Ask Dr. Renee show. And if you've never watched the show before, this show is here to motivate and inspire you to live the life you deserve. Because let's face it, this is not a dress rehearsal. And we need to live life now. I just read a quote that said, don't wait until later, live now, or something like that. And I messed it up, and I said I was going to get it right, but I messed it up. But still, if you have never watched the show, we've had really amazing guests. We've had bloggers, we've had entrepreneurs, we've had quote unquote celebrities. They're my friends. So I'm like, are they really celebrities? They're my friends. But as a matter of fact, we just had Mickey Howard this week, the legendary Mickey Howard. So today, of course, is no letdown. We're having another amazing person who honestly, I mean, she really is living the life that I really want to live. Like, I love this single niesta thing, but she is killing it on all fronts, mommy, wife, and everything. So we're going to talk to her. And if you have questions, you guys can always post them in the comments. And if you're watching this on Facebook, please start the watch parties now. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and give us a thumbs up, and please share on other platforms. Thank you so much. Our guest today is Sybil Amuti. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm so good. I absolutely love sitting in the waiting room while the advertisement was going, and I learned about THINX, and I was like, maybe I should switch. I don't know.
You should. Look, this is the way we start the show, but you should. It's awesome. I actually have never talked about it on this show. I only just played a little commercial, but they're amazing.
Wow.
I've done lots of videos about them, but they are amazing. I'm actually today, for the first time, I'm doing a THINX party.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's fancy.
And of course, it's going to be on Zoom because I've been home it'll be 5 weeks on Monday. 5 weeks I haven't left my apartment. Today marks my 9th week of sheltering in place. Before the 5 weeks, I was actually going to the grocery store, but I quit going 5 weeks ago because I was just like, they started doing the lineup outside because they were already coming. And it's cold still in Chicago. Yes, it's May and it's cold. And so I was like, I don't want to stand outside.
Right.
And so I go, Instacart. So yeah. So Instacart, if you would like to throw me a sponsorship. I have been Instacarting myself to death.
Oh my God.
Instacart and Amazon Prime now, but it's mostly Instacart.
5 weeks in the building, like in the house. Oh my gosh. No outside activity, like no walk. Okay, you owe yourself a walk.
So the thing is that my mask has not come yet, so I don't even own one.
Okay.
And I really was anti them, but then I started reading about when people walk and run and the whole, aerosolation of the, even when they talk, and then, heavy breathing when they're running and walking. And, I live in Chicago, like you live in, Jersey, New York, people are walkers and runners. And so it's not like I'm gonna be the only one out there. I said, nah, because I don't have a mask yet. And then I have asthma. It's very well controlled. I don't have to take any meds now, but I'm like, I'm just not playing with it. Like, I know people that are very healthy that got sick.
Yeah.
And when they told me what they went through, I said, no. On top of that, me having asthma, I can't do it.
Right. No, thank you.
So yeah. So I'm like, I'm okay with staying in. So I mean, I I did Soka Fitness. She's in Bergen County, New Jersey.
Oh.
I did her workout the other day on Zoom. I have always wanted to go because my sister lives near there. I always wanted to go, but this time it was on Zoom. Oh my God, it was amazing.
I live in Bergen County. You got to send me her information.
I will.
I wonder if it's the same woman I went to in the city, because I went to one of those classes and I was like, oh, there's a whole bunch of muscles I have never used.
Right.
Because that lower back, like.
Yeah. So she was amazing. I did that. Then, there's been some people, I don't go to the gym regularly. I usually walk. So I've been seeing gyms that have been online and they've been doing all sorts of workouts. So I'm like, okay, we can, we don't have to leave. We can.
Yeah, no, you don't. You're right.
So, I've been doing that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Dr. Renee, I hope it's better soon. I really do.
I do too.
I've been enjoying fresh air, but I crave the outside. So going outside for me is like really important, even opening windows and just kind of catching a fresh breeze. So I've been outside a lot, but my neighborhood is really quiet and you barely see a person. Everyone is distancing, so it's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So well, I'm catching the echo, and that's why I put in these to see if it'll help. Let's see. It's a live show, you guys. This is what happens.
Yeah, you gotta fix and flex on the way. Like
I'm just like, I'm hearing something and I don't like it.
I don't know. That's why I have these on, because I wanted to make sure you didn't get any feedback.
Okay, it's gone. So maybe it's this. I don't know. But so you have to. So I knew a lot about you, but I didn't know a whole lot. But last night I dived into the life of Sybil Amuti. It was a lovely ride.
Oh my gosh.
It was a lovely ride. So for those that have been watching the show, Brandis Daniels, who is basically her partner in crime, was already on the show years ago. As a matter of fact, I was at my parents' house and that's when we filmed it. So I wasn't even in front of this. But they created this amazing thing, The Great Girlfriends, which we will talk about. But so let's start at the first beginning. So the first beginning is you are a Memphis, Tennessee Southern belle, basically.
Born and raised, absolutely Memphis bred, and haven't lived there since 1996, but that's where my family is. That's where I retreat to 3, 4, 5 times a year, maybe more. I'm a Memphis girl, hardcore through and through. And I don't know if I'm a belle necessarily,
okay.
But
you're so silly. Look, you've been on the East Coast too long. So what did you want to be when you grew up? Because I saw what degrees you had and I was blown away because I had no idea that's what you went and got degrees in. So
isn't it wild how life takes you on a journey? I wanted to be on Soul Train. When I was 5, I was like, I want to be on Soul Train. And I didn't know what that meant at 5, obviously. I was so fascinated by the dancers. I was fascinated by the outfits. I was just fascinated by the experience. And one of my favorite parts of Soul Train, and for anyone who's under, let's go 35, they probably don't know what Soul Train is. But Soul Train was like a dance show. And it was a sensation in the Black community. And every Saturday night we watched Don Cornelius and they did the Soul Train line. And I was like, I want to be on Soul Train. And so I didn't know what that meant. It took me a few years to be like, that's what I want to do. I want to be on Soul Train. I don't want to be a dancer, but I want to be the person that makes everyone smile. And I didn't know it. That's just what I felt. I was like, I want to be on Soul Train. I want to be on Soul Train. What career would that be today? Thank God I never pursued a career on Soul Train. But over time that evolved, and the evolution of me wanting to be the one that makes people smile still remains. But I became more centered around that as I got through school, got to say middle school, high school, and I started to learn more about people and populations. And I had questions. Why are homeless people homeless? Why are these people poor? Why do these people have something and these people don't? A lot of that in Memphis, I was learning about inequality and lack of equity in class and system in cities. And after I got to that point was when I knew I wanted to go into urban planning. That's what I thought. I said, I'm going into urban planning because that's going to help me learn how to create solutions for people and help to kind of bridge these disparities. And that was really what led me into urban studies and public policy. And a fascinating study of how cities are created, how economic development takes place, the role that racism and sexism plays in the development of cultures and cities around the world. And it also led me to New York, where I studied more about urban studies and business development. And on the business development side, I became fascinated with the data. And so I'm certified, well, no longer, but I was many moons back, but a certified GIS specialist, which is a map maker, essentially. And this was pre-Google Maps, so most people won't even remember this time frame. But there was a period in time where maps were just paper maps. There were atlases, and if you wanted to go to someone's house, you had to write the directions down. If you lost that paper, you were done. Let me tell you something.
No, you know what? When I moved here, was the era of MapQuest.
Oh,
there was no GPS. There was nothing, you know what I mean? There was
Yeah.
no smartphones.
yeah.
So I would literally, thankfully I had a printer. I would print, because I'm not from Chicago. I moved here and was like, I had a car, you know, so I mean, this is how I'm gonna get around. I would print the directions and they would sit in the passenger seat with me, and that's how I got
and you had to
everywhere.
jot and drive. You had to read and drive.
Yeah.
You're like capturing and that's what we did. But I was on the front end of GIS technology, which is a technology that makes maps digital, brings them to life on devices. And so my entree into the world I'm into now was helping some brands discover where people were migrating and why it was important to have retail locations in certain areas, and why we needed to communicate certain messaging across the board because of their lifestyle and their migration patterns. And that was the beginning of me being in marketing rooms. And I found that fascinating because I was like, oh, this is the lifestyle side of the tech. And what I knew was that the tech would become obsolete, or at least this side of the job, because satellite maps were very prominent and beginning to take over. And there was the conversation of you can have a map on a phone that was happening. And so I was like, okay, there's going to have to be an exit from this world. But where does that mean for me? It led me into branding and the communication side of how do you translate what people want to hear when they are moving into a new community and they want to learn about a brand and they want to learn, what's important to their families. How does the brand learn how to speak to them? And the data tells you that. And so that was the beginning of what has been a long career in branding. We're marketing then and now branding.
Yeah, but that's cool. But that whole urban play, I was like, urban
like how?
planning?
What?
I was like, and not one degree, but then went and got graduate too. I was like, wow.
Yeah. It's interesting because I love traveling and I am so insanely curious about people and the why behind what they do. So when I'm in new cities, I am just I'm processing and consuming the way of life and the way people move and why. And it's interesting because people will say, they'll have questions and I have answers like, why do you know that? I'm a planner. I know this because I understand the construct of cities and it's just a rare degree, but
right.
Yeah. It's quite interesting.
Very cool. So did you always, so you wanted to be a Soul Train dancer, but did you want to always,
Soul Train.
You wanted to be on Soul Train.
I want to be a dancer.
Right. Yeah. So did you know that you wanted to live in New York, or was that you just wanted to move to another, bigger city? Or
no, I knew I wanted to live in New York. I would have visions of New York and I just imagined moving to New York. And I'll tell you, going to grad school at Columbia was my gateway to New York because I knew I was like, education is going to get me there because my parents were going to be like, girl, you are not moving to New York. You're going to stay right here in the South. And I was like, I got to go. So I used that as my opportunity to get to New York. And when I got to New York, I hated it. I hated everything.
I mean, it's so different than, a lot of places, especially from where you are. It's very different.
I hated it. I hated the temperature. There were no cars. I moved in summer. We didn't have air. It was a pre-war building. And I'm like, I don't care what kind of building this is.
It needs AC.
Air. I needed some AC. There was no AC. I hated going to get groceries and walking to do it. I was like, there were so many simple things that I took for granted living in the South that I despised about New York. Loved the culture, but really did not like doing life. So when I graduated, probably 2 days later, I was out. I'm out. I'm moving back to the South. I'm moving to New Orleans, which is where I went to undergrad. I love New Orleans. It's one of my favorite cities ever. And life's going to happen there. And so that's what I did. I moved to New Orleans and got a job, got situated, and then came another life turn. And it brought me back to New York, odd to say. And so I've been back now for 18 years.
Wow. So, I mean, New York is a lot. It's a great place. Just like Chicago's a great place, but it's so different than other places. It's like, 'cause there's so many people, and then it's expensive, and
Yep. And I mean, it's very much communally driven. To live in New York, you can't have a single mindset. It's community. Everything's about community. You need to get along with the person on the subway next to you. You walking down the street, you have to cohabitate all the time. It's constant cohabitation. And I liked the singular lifestyle of being in my car, not having to think about people that I don't know. I like that. But God, my relationship with God led me back to New York, and I have been here since. And my love for the city is insane. You would think I never hated it. Like, you would never know that I despise this place. You would never know. I know.
So, I love the way that you put how you left corporate America. I forgot the line, but it was so funny to me. I was like, I like how this is phrased in your bio.
Oh, I'm not even sure what I said, but probably something like, I don't know. I found myself outside the box.
No, I was like, this is the most interesting line I've ever seen. I've never, it was a nice way to say, and then I'm going to find it because it was just very interesting. But, so how many years has it been since you, quote unquote, worked for someone else?
About 5.
Okay.
And I mean, well, let me just say this, because if you're a consultant, you still
yes,
work for people. But in terms of being in an office where, I was employed by a company, 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been 5 years. And I'm very happy with the decision some days. Other days, I wish that I had all the infrastructure and stability and maybe not even stability at this point, but infrastructure that having a corporate career or an in-house career, in my world, we call it in-house, going in-house, offers you. Yeah.
Yeah. I left a long-term company relationship to focus on the fulfillment of my own legacy. I love that.
Yeah.
I thought that was really nice.
It's absolutely true. And the reason was because I'm super blessed to work in branding and be able to work on people's personal brands and some celebrity brands and corporate brands and things like that. I think it's amazing. But what I realized was, in my work, I was building everyone else's brand and telling only one part of my own story. And it was to my detriment when I realized that, wait a minute, I'm giving all of my legacy away to other people. And that's not what I wanted my legacy to be. I didn't want my legacy to be that I was this dynamic brand strategist who could, convert a brand and help brand. I didn't want that to be that wasn't even what I wanted. So why am I doing this? What is it that I really want to share? What's the message that I want to deliver to the world? I wasn't doing it effectively, or I was doing it, in doses when it felt convenient. And so it really hit me because as I was doing work with one of my favorite brands ever, one of my favorite celebrity brands rather, I was also getting worked on because I felt like God was constantly dealing with me like, what about you? What about you? But what about your story? But what about, and I'm like, this is not the moment. Like right now, we are focused on building this brand, and I felt like God kept dealing with me saying, hey, what about you? And in my mind, I began to say, you know what, that's really true. And it took me going through some personal development experiences to realize that I was only living out one facet of who I am. And as human beings, we are multifaceted. But if you're from my generation, you got one facet, and that career is going to take you 25, 30 years. You're going to get that pension check, right? Because that's what parents taught us.
Exactly.
And then you can do the things you love. Like then you can have a hobby. And And I bought into that for many years, not even realizing, but that was just the way that I was conditioned to think. And it just, I had to disrupt that thinking completely because it didn't serve where I was going.
And you know what? My mom and dad, of course, are from that same generation. And so that's exactly what I was on that track as well.
Yeah.
I completely understand that. But I think we both know Sherry Riley, right?
Yes.
And that was exponential living that you were saying.
Yes. Love her.
Yes, love her. And actually, I tell everyone that she did an intervention with me before the book came out and said, Renee, I see your business is doing great. I was in Atlanta and our mutual friend dropped me off for lunch with her. And I couldn't figure out why I was being dropped off and they weren't joining us. But I was like, where are we going? Yeah. Right. I didn't know what was going on. And girl, when I got in there, she started talking. I go, this is why I'm here by myself. And so, but she said, Renee, you know, your business is doing this, but I know that you want a personal life because I know you. And she said, and so you're doing, you know, she's like, you need to do you're living exponentially. You have to, you know, that, you know, work is only 10% of your life, but you're making it everything. It's not everything. And I'm like, oh, what? And then the book comes out. But she literally said exponential living to me that day. Yes. So, and that's exactly what you described. So I'm glad that you just, because, you know, it's funny. My mom, as I tell her about people like, oh, so-and-so got a new job. Didn't they just get a new job 6 months ago? Mm-hmm. She was like, but, and I go, Mom, it's not like it was, you know, you like change jobs. You know, if you want to change 3 in a year, you change 3 in a year.
Yes. Yeah. No, I know. And they get worried when they like, oh Lord, is the brick breaking? Mama, no. But that's what it is. Yeah. Because their construct was very different. And thank God for it, because it afforded us opportunity to have what we have now. But now we get a chance to really exponentially look at the ways that we can exponentially grow our story, our impact, our reach. And we're a global world. We're so connected now. There's so much technology. We can really innovate the path a bit more, but we have to still be willing to step out. Yep. Yeah.
And, you know, and everyone, Sherry Riley was on the show before, so you should check out that episode. And then Tanisha Jackson Warner's been on twice, I think. And she told about how her grandmother kept saying, don't quit that good job.
Yes. Yes. You got a good job. Why you want to leave a good job? Right. I mean, and that's the conversation. Yes. Yeah, that's the conversation. Or the question is, what you gonna do? How you gonna pay your bills? And there's more to life than that.
And you know, that's part of the reason why I do this show, is because I want people to understand that, you know, I understand it costs money to do this and this and this, but if you follow your passion, I'm telling you, you'll be amazed how the money will follow.
Absolutely. Because
it'll be 7 years, June 24th, that I didn't have a job anymore. And when I tell you, I'm not hungry. Yeah. I am not homeless. Yes. And I travel now more than I ever did. Yeah. Yeah. And when I say travel, I have in 365 days, I think I went to the islands like 4 or 5 times.
Wow. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm talking about really going places too. Yeah. And so, and I am now living life and I am loving it. Yeah. So I think that people need to understand that. And I think people don't understand that. And I've told people a million times, if you need help, I'll help you. Because there's just no reason for anybody to have the Sunday night blues, because they got to go to work on Monday morning. I
remember that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you want to. And I don't believe that everyone should be an entrepreneur. I do not believe that at all. But I think that you should enjoy what you do. Yeah. So if that's a matter of figuring out what it is, let's try and figure out what it is. Yesterday, I met a girl online and I literally said, you know, she said what she does. And I was like, well, what do you want to do? And she's like, well, I want to write. I go, well, then why don't you do that? That's something you can just do. Right. And then she's like, right. And she's like, but I don't know how to turn into money. I said, don't laugh. I'm so serious when I say this. Google it. If you want to know how to get paid to write poetry today, Google that. Yeah. And people think it's quite interesting. Everything is online.
Everything's online. But one of the things that I think we do as people, we like to make our problems so special, or our circumstances so unique that there's no answer. And there's nothing new under the sun. So we figure, but you don't know my story. Right. You don't know my struggle. Mine are, so, we cling to the idea that we need to have a special circumstance to justify why we won't take leaps of faith and why we won't step out and just do the things that we love.
Yeah.
We cling to that. And I mean, releasing that is going to be a freedom walk for her because honestly, in the writing and in a just constant quest to do the thing that you love and share it, have vision around it, it will attract so many people that will support her and guide her and help build her up and refine her and groom her to be whatever style writer she desires to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I really want people to realize you don't have to stay in that job until you reach retirement age.
No.
You just, and I mean, and Steve Harvey has a little video. He talks about you have to leap and the parachute will come. Yeah. You might hit a few rocks on the way down, but if you survive those, you'll be fine and you'll be okay.
And well, here's the thing. I mean, I wish I would love people to, that love for people to really look at their lives and understand the job does not create the stability. Whatever that is, whatever that force that you are, the thing that you bring to the table on a daily regimented basis, that's what's creating the stability. That's what's building the regimen. That's what's yielding the 1st and 15th. If you can do that there, you can do that wherever you are.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
If you take a look at it, the structure, the building, the job, the company doesn't do that for you. You have subscribed to the idea that having a position has given you the opportunity to do these things, but being in the right place at the right time, doing what you're supposed to do, offers you the same opportunity. And when you define what success means for your life, why success has to look a certain way for you, then you'll see that there are so many different lanes, different avenues through which you can get there. It doesn't have to be through, for me, I love travel and I love traveling for free. Let's be clear. I love expensing everything. But I also, that was the first thing I missed. I was like, I missed my expense account. I grieved that. I did. And the first year, I was like, I don't want to travel anywhere. It just feels weird to have to pay. This is just me being crazy in my head. I can't tell you the last time I've had to pay for travel. Or I can't tell you the last time I've had to, have a non-expensed trip that clients didn't have to cover for whatever be the case. And the reason I'm saying that is because I know that I'm where I'm supposed to be doing what I'm supposed to do right now. Therefore, I think the benefit of that is that all the things that I love, the rewards, the things that I find valuable have found their way to me.
Yep.
Versus me working to get the benefit of those things. It's
law of attraction.
Perspectives. Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. Absolutely. All the things that you enjoy, the benefits, they will find their way to you.
So speaking of attraction, Sybil is quite a married woman. How did you meet the lovely Kwaku?
So this is New York. This is so wild. We met in New York. Kwaku is actually a team member for, let's say this, he was an employee on the staff team member for my roommate. And my roommate, And so when I moved back to New York, I moved into an apartment with 2 guys in Times Square. And I know. And which is even crazier, which is why my family was like, what do you have?
That's just what I was going to say. Your family? Like, wait a minute.
And I met this guy named Todd Whitley. I'll give his full name because he is such a big part of my life story. And I loved him. I said, I'm going to be safe here. He's going to be a good roommate and friend. And I'm in Times Square. This is the perfect location. And I just knew it was going to be right. And then I met Angel, who is his friend. And I was like, oh, this is going to be perfect. And so as it stood, Todd would come home and he would talk about work and I would listen. And we were just getting to know each other a lot because this was online. This is back in 2001 when, people were not meeting online, etc. But we did. We met online. He would talk about his team all the time and work. And he was very passionate about work. And I would just listen and talk to him and share, what was going on in my life and things like that. And over months of doing that, the buildup came to the point. He's like, you should meet this guy, Kwaku. He would always talk about his team and this guy, one guy on his team who loved his mom, who was an amazing guy, who was such a great employee, had good character. And then finally he goes, you should meet Kwaku. Now, I know, knowing that Todd was homosexual, and had a relationship, I said, listen, Todd, I don't want to be a part of anything you have going on. Like, you know, I'm in my head thinking he's meaning for himself. And he's like, no, for you. I'm like, oh, so I have to go back and kind of listen through the tape again, thinking for me. All this time I'm thinking that Todd is telling me something because he has the intent to do something that he wanted me to co-sign on. And I'm like, I can't be a part of a scandal. So I go back and listen through the tape in my head, and I'm like, oh, he does sound interesting. You know, it sounds like somebody I'd like to meet. And so Todd, you know, in short, Todd asked me to come up to his job and bring his glasses one day. And I had on my go meet Kwaku dress and Kwaku. I had on my go meet Kwaku dress because, you know, you got to have your dress on. And that was that. We met and we went on a walk and talk just to get to know each other. And then we built up relationship, and he dumped me 3 times along the way. And 3 years later, we got engaged and we got married. And so it's been 17 years together and 14 years married.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been a long time, but a really great time.
That's great. That's
great. Yeah.
And how old are your children now?
Sam is 11 and Dylan is 8. I know, I have children and everything. Yeah, it's this side of my story is definitely the great side of my story. This is the side where feel like I've had very little control, but I've been very guided. And I've sort of, kind of been on the ride the wave experience of where can life take me if I let God be in the lead of things. And I would have never scripted a husband. I would have never scripted children. I would have never scripted life in New York, New Jersey area. I would have never scripted so many of these parts. But I know that these parts are for me, if that makes sense.
So so another thing is, so you live there, your family's still in the South, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you have how many siblings?
I have 4 siblings.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
And no one's in Jersey.
No one's in Jersey.
Yeah, that's like me. No one's in Chicago. But
no, and I'm going back. I'm always, going home to see everyone, and some of them come here. But yeah.
That's got to be difficult.
It's hard. I love my family. Is very close. I love my family. I miss them daily. And this particular season has been extremely rough because I haven't been home since January. And my parents are elderly at this, my dad has Parkinson's. And so my mom is a caretaker. And that's tough to not be able to go home.
Yeah. My dad had a stroke amongst this craziness, of course. March 24th, and had to have brain surgery. And needless to say, I'm not able to go. So, yeah. And so they're in Michigan and I'm here. But so I understand. I understand. Yeah. So, but I was going to ask you, so as far as being the career woman you were and having kids, because I know this is something people think about all the time, and you don't have family. How did that work?
This is where family comes in. Because, this entire time we hadn't had like family, like, grandmama, auntie, drop off. We didn't have it. And my friends that had it and would complain, I was like, you can't do that in front of me, because every time I make a move, we got to pay for it. We're paying someone. But we've had our church family. Our church family was hugely instrumental in supporting us in the early years of our career and of our parenting career, because it is that's a whole career in itself. But what we did was we had a grandmother who loved us and was willing to watch our kids, and we supported her. And she became like, a surrogate grandmother to our children here in the New York, New Jersey area. And then different people that we knew we picked up. And then we ended up having to get a full-time live-in nanny a couple of years. And so you just figure it out. And there was one point when we were living in San Diego and we were releasing one nanny, and we moved to San Diego for work, and we were I had to hire someone online. I felt like, I don't know, I felt like I was abandoning my kids, putting them in front of a stranger, because this entire time it had been someone that we knew, that we were very familiar with, that would, take on the care for our kids. And now me hiring, or Kwaku and I hiring a person online, was very strange. It felt abnormal, but she was, a lifesaver for us. So, you know what? I will say this, Dr. Renee, you figure it out.
Yeah. And
Is that what works for your family?
No, I'm saying, I wanted you to say this because there's people that's the thing. Well, I have kids. I can't go do this. I can't live my dream. I can't, but no, you can.
My kids were a gateway. My kids are believers, they support. They were actually, they literally were a gateway for me to say, what else? Because I was like, motherhood, that wasn't something that I saw for myself. So when I became a mom and I learned who was on the inside of me as a result of being a mom, I'm like, what else have I tucked away? Or what else have I not given an opportunity because I've short-sighted things and said, not me? Like, what other things? And so, and that's not just motherhood, that's life, period. You discredit or you dismiss yourself, you dismiss that idea, that dream, and you say, you know what, not for me, not now, maybe not me, maybe I'm not the one, maybe I don't qualify, it doesn't fit my picture. I became curious and I was like, well, what else? And I feel like that question has just continued to open more doors and give my brain the space to ideate and innovate some of the things that were norms for me. Because no 2 days are the same. You have kids. Right. There's no 2 days. There's some things that are routine, but a kid can, my kids can wreck this live right now, that somebody could go vomit and I got to, stop everything. But I'm okay with that now. I'm okay with learning what else. I'm okay with the idea that life is going to open me up to new opportunities, and that I have to figure it out along the way. So if we decide that we are solution drivers and we're problem solvers and we orient ourselves to always look for ways to solve it, to tell ourselves we're going to get through it, instead of saying, can I make it through that? Can I do that? I can do that. I'm going to locate the ways on the inside of me. New opportunities, new solutions are going to unveil themselves along the way, but I can do it. So it's not a question of whether or not I can. It's, look, these are the ways I'm going to learn more about myself along the way. And I think that's what parenting has done for me. There are people that I've trusted that I wouldn't have trusted with a piece of gum before. But when you become a parent, you need somebody to watch your kid. You start seeing people with different eyes, like, maybe she is loving. Maybe I can't, you just start to learn more about how you view the world. There's also people I would never let near my children that I love dearly. So, I think you reorient and you start to adapt as you need to. But the idea that you can't figure it out is what keeps you in a state of fear. It keeps you anxious. It keeps you worried, and it keeps you uptight, keeps you limited,
Yeah, definitely. So when did you and Brandis get together to do the Great Girlfriends? Because first was the podcast, then was the conference, right?
Well, sort of hand in hand. 2014, I had this vision that I put on a piece of paper of a community where women could connect and grow and learn and feel inspired and celebrate their great girlfriends. And so one of the things that Brandis and I always talked about was mentorship. Brandis and I have been friends for now 11 years. And we would always talk about like what's going on in our world. And, we would always support each other and really show up as great girlfriends for one another. And so when I had that idea and I told Brandis about it, she was like, oh my God, Brandis and I would get on the phone and ideas just begin to expand because we just kind of anchor each other in that way. It's pretty cool. And so the idea was, all right, how can we take this and use this as an opportunity to take the mentorship we're already doing, but move it over to a podcast because neither one of us have time. I have 2 children and I was living between San Diego and New Jersey. Brandis was pregnant. It was just a lot of lifing going on. So how can we use this as an opportunity to mentor, not necessarily building community at that point, but just use the podcast as a place to do the mentorship that we're already doing. And in her head, she was like, this is where we're going to do the podcast. In my head as a brand, I'm like, no, this is the place where we can do the brand. And so we partnered up to create the Great Girlfriends. We named it Great Girlfriends because good just didn't seem like enough. Like, who wants a good girlfriend when you can have a great girlfriend? We started the podcast and we just sent it out to 25 friends each. And we said, hey, we're starting something new. If you like it, share it. And the first month, the numbers were like 1,500 downloads. And we were like, 1,500 people downloaded this. Like, who are they? Where are they from? Like, do you know these people? We're combing through the data to say, do you have a friend in this town in South Carolina? Do you know someone in Chicago? And, oh, that's so-and-so. Oh, okay. This is what we did. It was crazy. But we didn't understand that the podcast was an entree into a larger world of content development, an arena where people were really nurturing themselves with audio content. It was very, I won't say it was very normal back then. It was still the unicorn in the room of what's a podcast. And that was 5 years ago. And since then, we've had 4 conferences. We're into year 5 now of the podcast and the community. And we're just building out the framework of the brand a lot more.
Yeah, I was one of those first people. And I remember when you guys, because I think Brandis was on my show before the podcast started, I think.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
So I think that's how I ended up in the list. So I got the email and was like, oh, okay. And I was like, oh, this is really good. And it just I literally had the notifications every time. I'm like, oh, okay. And I'd listen to the next one. And so, yeah, I've been on the ride a long time and I love it. I think it is so amazing. I have not made it to a conference, but but when you first started, I think I wasn't quite traveling the way I am now. Because now, especially now that my sister's in Jersey, she wasn't in Jersey. That's the other thing. Okay. Now that she's in Jersey, I usually end up in New York every month until this happened. But I'm usually there every month. Yeah. So then it would be easy to go now. But before my sister actually lived in Valdosta, Georgia when you started it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Which is why I would catch you in New Orleans all the time at Essence Festival.
Yeah, well, I go to Essence every year anyway. But yeah, exactly.
I miss it this year. I'm so sad about it. I know.
I'm just like, and then reunion. And that's what I tell people. I said it's a reunion, and then also, Janet was headlining. Yeah. And my sister has not been in 2 or 3 years. I think it's 3 years, and I think she was finally gonna be able to go this year. So I'm just bummed, but
I know.
I know. And actually, you know what? That's where we met. So Sybil and I knew of each other, but we had never met in person until Essence. And we were like backstage, and I'm like walking. I go, "Hello," and she's like, "Oh my God, Dr. Renee!"
To see you in person, it just felt surreal. I was like, "This is the woman I met online." And
I had never met Brandis in person either. And Brandis had already been on the show, but I had never met her in person. So I saw both of you. I was like, "Oh my goodness!"
Yeah, which is what I love. I love that we can come together in a digital world, and that when we meet in person, it's like a cousin. You know, it's like exactly. It's just like an actualization of something you feel in your heart. It's so good, and I love that. And that's what that's why I've been so passionate about building community online. Because
how many people are in your Facebook in the Great Girlfriends Facebook group?
21,000 in the Great Girlfriend. Shout out to the Great Girlfriend. Yes. But building community online is so important because there's so many intersections that are happening. And if you only localize community, you miss moments like this, like the opportunity to meet you 5 years ago. And for people who were very loyal listeners to keep fueling us forward. We were so nervous about having a podcast and putting ourselves out there. And we had totally separate careers. So how are we going to just start hosting? And now, it's a walk in the park. But when you have the digital community have your back, and then you meet people in person and you get to see, you realize we're all connected. Like there's so many intersections, but we just have to be willing to explore them and see where the common ground is.
Now, what I noticed on your bio also was that you're looking to now be an on-air personality.
Yes.
So what are we doing towards that?
You know what?
Because I do see you've been live streaming in the group. I see that. Yeah.
Well, so there's a few things I've been doing. Conversations with some friends that are in the network space that can help me really build out that opportunity more. And pitching out what the Great Girlfriends brand will look like if it were a television show. Starting with a television show, what would it look like in a scripted show? What would it look like in a drama? So I've just been kind of playing with what the content portfolio can look like, and continue to build it out. And I feel like right now my assignment is to keep doing the thing that I know to do. Keep creating a rhythm around the thing that I know to do. Because that's going to pad and anchor the opportunity. And that's been a gateway for me. And I think it's been helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. And I totally agree. And I keep telling everyone, I understand we're going through a really rough time. Everyone is going through a really rough time. Yeah. But if you can just mourn a little bit, but then you got to get up and,
got to do it. You have to Do it. I mean, because the time honestly belongs to us. It's the only gift of this season that we really have, right? Is time. And that opportunity sits in time and what we do with it. But if we just allow, I mean, and I want to be clear because I think there's a lot of grief and mourning that's happening right now. And we need to make space for that, but also recognize that part of that recovery is to move into massive action, which is getting the body and the mind into a different state so that you can manifest things that are important to you.
So what is next for you?
What is next for me would have to be that show.
Like me and my show. I got it.
It would have to be that show. It would have to be that show. That would be, I'm going to claim that's what's next.
Okay. That sounds good. Sounds good.
What's next. Yeah.
So how can we support you? Because I want my audience to make sure that they support you so we can make sure the show does happen and all that good stuff. So how can they support
God. Go online and say Sybil needs a show. Go online and just, but no, seriously. Definitely listen to the Great Girlfriends podcast and subscribe to it, thegreatgirlfriends.com. Make sure you're following. I do tons of coaching and clarity calls for people. If people want to book a clarity call and want to unpack some things that they need in the personal development and brand space, I'm always available to support and do that. But most importantly, listening to the podcast, subscribing, writing a review, those things move heaven and earth.
Yeah. And then, she also has her own podcast, The Grace?
Yes, The Grace podcast, which has been on ice for about a year. It's time for me to resurrect it.
But you know what? That's what happened with the Ask Dr. Renee show too. So I understand.
Yeah, you have to do what's within your bandwidth. And what's interesting is I've been getting more emails over the last few months. When are you bringing it back out? And the crazy thing is that the numbers haven't dropped. They've shifted from different markets. So people are listening, but from different markets, but the numbers haven't dropped. So I was like, okay, so I might need to dip my foot back in that pool just to remind that community of people, that audience, that they're still important.
Can they book the clarity calls on thegreatgirlfriends.com or do they need to go to your site?
They can go to my website, SybilAmuti.com, SYBILAMUTI.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, ma'am. This has been amazing, as I knew it would be. And I so appreciate you. Yes, I so appreciate you. Please, please take care of your amazing family. When I get back to Jersey, we'll have to do lunch, dinner. You know, my sister's a chef. Oh. So perhaps she'll cook for us. Maybe it'll be me, you, Brandis, and Tanisha. I don't know.
Yes, yes. And send me her info if she's out here in Bergen County. Yes, I need to know who she is.
I will. I will definitely. Yes, Foodie Engineer is her brand. So everyone I talk about all the time, but you can follow her everywhere. Foodie Engineer, Chef Alicia Nicole. But yeah, so thank you so much. Have a great afternoon, everyone. And we'll see you next week.
Yes, see you next time. Bye.